Hey guys, what's up? Welcome back to my channel. Today's video is a bit more of a casual style video, hence me sitting on the floor and the sort of terrible lighting. But I just thought for today's unofficial Vlogmas video, I would do a Q&A. So I asked you guys on Instagram and in my Facebook group, Money Making Micro Influencer, for some questions, and you guys gave them to me. So let's talk social media, entrepreneurship, freelancing, and all of that fun stuff. First question that I got, he says, is it possible to be too transparent with a web design client or social media client regarding hows and whys? And I thought this was a really good question because I do think there is a way to be too transparent with your clients, and I feel like this can sound really bad when I say it, and it's not that you want to lie to your clients or that you don't want to tell them things or you want to hide things, but I think sometimes there are times when omission or just omission is kind of the best route. Here's what I mean. I don't say this to hide anything from them or be secretive, but I think there are times when they're just like a really complex situation that you know in your head is going to take a lot of work or time or effort or is like very technical. They sometimes, if you tell them that can be overwhelming and it can almost like scare people away. When you know that you can do it, it doesn't need to be addressed sometimes. I don't know if that makes sense. Like for instance, I had to connect an e-commerce platform to a Squarespace website recently. It was my first one that I'd ever done. And so I was doing like a ton of research and there were quite a few steps to connect it. And so it was something where I actually need to bring in a freelancer to kind of help me out with some back end type stuff. And I feel like just going through like the 20 pages of material that I was learning and all of this stuff with my client, explaining like exactly how much work it was going to take, would just completely overwhelm them. So I just let them know that I could do it, and then I might be reaching out to somebody else to help. And that was kind of it. Like, you don't need to go through every single step. I think that there are times when it can just be overkill and it can be overwhelming for them. I think the times when you do need to be really transparent and really open with your client is if anybody else is touching their account. So if there is like a consultant or freelancer that I hire that is actually going to be getting into like WordPress or Squarespace or whatever and using their logins for anything, I definitely let them know. I don't just like grant people access to that stuff because it's their stuff that they own. Like, I would want to know if somebody else had access to my stuff. But beyond that, I mean, yeah, I don't know. I hope that answered your questions. Like, I just don't think that you need to get that deep into most things. And I say this about like everything, like social too. Like, tell people what they need to know, you know, when it comes to metrics and things like that. I don't give my clients like full reports of, you know, every single post that I've ever done for them or like every single metric that I can pull for them, because they don't need to know, you know? And again, like if they ask me for it, if they want to know, if they want more details, I'll give it to them happily. But 9 times out of 10, they don't. Like, they just need to know what they need to know. And I think you'll figure out what those metrics are and what those, you know, reports are that they need at the beginning of the relationship when you're setting your objectives and setting your goals together. So you'll know what they need to know. It shouldn't be a surprise to either of you guys what they're getting. I hope that was helpful. I hope that's what you were looking for. This question is advice on interns versus assistants and making the overall jump to expanding a small business. Okay, another good question. So interns versus assistants. So, you know, the thing that I want everybody to keep in mind is that an intern is not the goal with an intern is not that they're going to be a long-term part of your team. And I think a lot of times people take on interns because they want to grow their team, and that is a good way to like start. That's a good place to start. That's a good way to start learning your management style and, you know, learning how to manage basically if you never have before, or definitely not for your own business at least. But, you know, interns grow up, they graduate college and they move on. And, you know, there are times when you do want to hire on your intern long-term, but most of the times they're just looking for something while they're in school, which there are pros and cons to that. I mean, I think that is a huge pro on the one hand, because if you're kind of unsure about growing your business and you're not sure if you can, you know, afford a salary for a full-time employee that is going to be relying on you long-term, an intern is kind of a nice way to test the waters. And, I always recommend paying interns. But with that said, it's going to be a lot less than a full-time salary, most likely. You're going to be paying them, whatever hourly rate or whatever it is that you choose to do. So it's going to be a good way for you to test the waters. And if things don't work out with your business, or, things don't go how you planned, you're not kind of locked in to paying a salary, or you have to feel bad for actually letting a full-time person go. So that's one pro. But, like I said, with that said, they're also not going to stick around probably. And that's just the reality of it. And if they do stick around, they're going to be expecting that next step. So yeah, another good thing about an intern is that you're really there to train them. So you can really train them to do things your way. I think that when you're hiring somebody external, they've picked up all of these different learnings from different jobs, from school, from, maybe their own businesses that they've run, whatever. And so again, that's good and bad, because they're going to bring in expertise that maybe you don't have, but at the same time, they might do things in a way that you don't like. So there's really pros and cons to both sides. I don't know that I have advice necessarily. I think, you got to do what's right for you. I think taking on an intern, a lot of people think that taking on an intern is going to move mountains for their business. And I think sometimes, the right people can really help you a ton. But I also think that hiring an actual assistant or, whatever, junior social media manager or whatever it is, can be an investment in your business too. And you are investing in their skills and everything that they already have. So it kind of goes both ways, I guess. In terms of growing your small business in general, if you're talking about growing your team, hiring an intern or hiring an apprentice, I have a code for GenM, which is a tool that I use. I use apprentices. I don't know what the plural of that is, but I hire apprentices through there every 3 months for my business. And you just pay I think it's $200, and then you gain access to a pool of apprentices that you can work with. It's a really great value, and it's pretty similar to an internship. So I will leave my referral code to that down below, because I believe if you use my referral code, we'll both get a little bit of a savings. So leave that in the link down below. Another thing that I recommend if you're kind of in between those and you're like, well, I'm not really sure what's right for me, is hiring freelancers. I work with other contractors, other freelancers all the time, because they're not so much expecting, there are more work styles than just a full-time employee, right? You can hire an assistant who works for you remotely, who maybe works 10 hours a week as a remote freelance employee. That is a possibility too. So there are tons of different ways that you can find people through your own network, but you can also use sites like Upwork. I've talked about those before, just because they're super easy. They kind of do everything for you. All you got to do is post the job description and you're good. So that's kind of all of my advice that I really have for now. Now I'm going to head over to Facebook and check out my group. You guys asked me, I think 5 or 6 questions on there. All right, so first question, how do you deal with people copying your services task by task but charging a significantly less amount? So I thought that this was a really good question, because to be honest with you, this is something that I kind of was thinking about recently, especially because I do have my online courses. As you guys probably know, I have my course, The Journey Social, which literally details pretty much everything that I do to set up, new client relationships and get started, pitch myself to clients, all that stuff. So link down below for that if you want to join the course. It's a great value. I teach you everything that I know for the most part. And I was thinking about that because I was like, wait a second, I'm kind of giving the blueprint to my business. But you know what? I think this isn't a question that I really have a full answer to be honest. I think the answer is just that you kind of got to have a little bit of faith, at the end of the day, you just have to be faithful that people aren't going to completely rip you off and that people are going to be original. And yes, of course, have I seen a couple of people here and there do the exact same thing that I do in my course who've taken it? Yeah, but maybe 1 or 2 people, honestly, that I've seen. I mean, I'm sure people are doing it other, that I'm not seeing, but for the most part, out of all the hundreds and thousands, I think I've had thousands of students at this point, I've only seen a couple flat out copy me. And so you have to, I don't know, I have to have faith that most people are in it for the right reasons and they're trying to learn as a guide and then make their business their own. And, I also have to understand that the people who are flat out copying me are probably, and this might sound really, really rude, but they're probably not going to be extremely successful in their business just because this type of work does require a lot of creativity, a lot of critical thinking. And if you're like just flat out copying everything that I do, once, if you do get hired by somebody, by a client, you're probably not going to really be coming up with that unique original of strategies for their accounts. So I don't know. I don't really worry about it too much. I don't take offense to it by any means. Then again, I wasn't trying to like trash talk anybody who is copying. I mean, I think imitation is a form of flattery, if you will. And I think that if you don't know where to start, like we all copy in some way. I copy without even really realizing it. I mean, I'm not the first person to film this kind of video. I'm not the first person to come up with an online course. I'm not the first, you know what I mean? So we all take little influences from other people here and there. So I try not to like take it too personally or anything like that. But yeah, I don't worry about it in terms of competition or anything, if that's what you're asking. I think it's life, online. I mean, on the internet, everybody can see what you're doing, and of course, at some point, somebody is going to sort of copy you. What components are needed to create a new website launch strategy? I'm launching a new site in 2019, and this is from Spooky Lou's Consulting. Okay, so what components are needed? So, I mean, I think that you need a goal, first of all. Like, what do you want your website to do? I think that just like any other social channel or digital property that you have, you need to have a set of key goals, objectives. So is it there to sell? Is it there for awareness? Similar as you would for a social channel. Think about, what do you want it to do for you? Do you want it to publish content? And of course, again, like most social channels, it's probably going to be a combination of multiple ones, but what are like the key objectives? And for me, my website, the main objective of it is to sell. I sell my courses on there. I sell my mentorships on there. I sell, consulting calls. I sell tickets to my events, all of that stuff. Like that's the main reason that I have a site, because people can make secure transactions through it. So because of that, like my foot's falling asleep. Because of that, I try really hard just to make my CTAs like very clear, and to keep my CTAs or call to actions very minimal and really only be driving people to purchase. I don't have a ton of call to actions to sign up for my email list. I don't have a ton, I really am just trying to get people to purchase my courses, tickets to my events, things like that. So come up with your goals and what you want your key objectives to be. And then I also think it's important to come up with a persona, or understand who you're talking to, who you're going to reach. And obviously you can reach everybody at the World Wide Web, but think about who your target customer is, target client is. And that way you can build your website around that. I think a lot of people build websites based on what they think is pretty. And I mean, hey, guilty of that for sure. But, if you find out that your core audience that you really want to reach, or you don't find out, you come to the conclusion that you really want to reach, senior level managers at Fortune 500 companies, you're going to look at those demographics, find out that probably a lot of them are male, or at least a significant portion. They're probably a little bit older. So maybe you don't want a pink and white themed website. And I'm not saying yours is, I haven't looked at it. So, but maybe you want to go for something a little bit more sleek, a little bit more sophisticated, a little bit more technical. Like that's just an example. And maybe it's the opposite. Maybe, you think, you're really trying to reach a lot of younger people, but you tend to like a more sophisticated style. So anyway, think of your target customer, your buyer persona. There's lots of worksheets out there. I actually have one, so I'll link it down below. But HubSpot has a good tool to use as well. So I think those are really the key things. Understand who you're talking to. And then I also think out of those things, out of your objectives and who you're talking to, you're going to probably come across, what your main keywords are. So do some keyword research and understand like what you're trying to rank for. And that way you can make sure that you're kind of throwing that in where it makes sense. Don't like keyword stuff or anything like that, but just keeping that in mind when you're building out your pages and categories and things like that. Is it best to work full-time as a social media manager for an employer for a couple of years, or it doesn't matter? I'm guessing they mean, if you want to start a business. And I've been very consistent in my messaging on this. I can't tell you what to do. I think that working for employers has helped me immensely run my business better. But at the same time, one could argue that it's held me back a lot. And that's something that you have to decide for yourself. You have to decide if you want this to be a side hustle, when you want to make this full-time. If you do want to make it full-time, you do you. I've seen successful social media managers who have worked in the corporate world. I've seen successful ones who haven't. But I will say that I think working in corporate America or in an office of some sort, or just, for somebody else, it does teach you things that you can't learn by yourself, or that are much harder to learn by yourself. And these are things that I think are key differentiators for me in my business. I hear it time and time again from my clients that I'm so professional, that I'm always on time, that I'm so smart, which I'm not saying people who haven't worked in corporate America aren't smart, obviously, but I think what they mean by that is that I use terms that I learned from working in marketing in the corporate world and things like that. So there's two different sides. I say do what's right for you. I really can't answer that for you, but I definitely think that it has helped me. What is your favorite tool, free or paid, for social media management? I'm alternating between eClincher and Buffer and Google Drive, but this is all new to me. And my IG is Jaleesa Smith Coaching. I asked my Facebook group if they wanted a shout out to leave their links. So that's why some people are leaving their Instagram handles. Oh man, honestly, I don't have a favorite tool for social media management. I think I've shown you guys all of them that I do have, which are Buffer and Social Weaver. Those are the two that I use, and Hootsuite. Honestly, I don't use a big social media tool for all of my clients. I really cater it to what they're doing. And I know that's not a great answer, and it's not really what I teach or what I train people to do, but it's worked for me because honestly, all of the social media tools are kind of the same. They do the same thing for the most part. I think unless you get up to enterprise level and you have hundreds of accounts, or a ton of accounts that you're managing, it really doesn't get too different between those ones. So I just say play around with them. All of the ones that I just mentioned, Social Weaver, Hootsuite, and Buffer, I believe they all at least have free trials or a free small plan. So try them out and see what works best for you. And then yes, eClincher, I haven't heard of that before. Buffer and Google Drive. So I do use Google Drive to communicate social media plans. I'm not sure if you've taken I think you've taken my course. I can't remember for sure, but I think you have. And in that course, there is a template for social media plans that you can use in Google Sheets. So I do use that to share social plans with my clients. I don't share every social plan. I don't share every piece of content that I post for them, but for the first week, I like to make sure that I'm getting the tone and the voice right and all of that stuff. So I'll share a plan, or if I have a special event that I'm doing for them, I like to make sure that I'm communicating with them, and just to organize between me and if I am working with a teammate or anything like that. Another tool that I like is Asana. Asana helps me keep everything together. So similarly to Google Drive, I can organize things by clients. So I can say client XYZ has 5 different social plans that I'm working off of because they have an event, they have a sale, they have an ad campaign. So I'm going to be able to put all of those different plans into Asana, housed under one big task. And then I can check off things as I do them. So honestly, those are the ones that I use for the most part. I don't really have a secret weapon. I do wish that there was a tool out there that kind of combined Asana and a scheduling tool, because I really like having the task management as well as the scheduling all in one. So if anybody knows of anything that is out there like that, I would love to hear about it, but that's kind of what I do.